Hey everyone, I'm Armor Gaming, welcome back to my channel and welcome to Monster Analysis. Up for analysis today is Granuy. Teleka who tried to dissuade his son Granuy from following the dangerous path of battle magic. He even sent his kid with Varyadanoy so that he could learn some support magic, but Granuy ignored his dad and went his own way to learn the most dangerous battle skills he could find. And so, just based off that description, we have what potentially will be added into the family's book, Teleka and Granuy, father and son. So hopefully these two monsters do get added, and here he is as a child, as a teen, as an adult. And looking at his skills, he has some offensive skills as well as supportive skills, so he really did learn the best of two worlds. And before I get into the actual analysis portion, you should know that as of the time recording this video, there's a total of 29 fire legendary monsters, and so I will be comparing Granuy to those monsters. And I should actually also mention that this is kind of like a premature analysis because this monster isn't released yet, so we don't know if something is going to change, and so I just want to make sure everyone is aware of that. By no means is everything I'm going to say in this video set in stone. And with that said, let's begin. This monster has a power of 3421, which in the fire element puts him in 20th place. And I know you may be thinking 20th place, that's not impressive at all, especially when there's only 29 legendary fire monsters. Well, that's not the case because the power stat itself, 3421, that's actually in 9th place. It just so happens that the fire monsters have a lot of attackers. There's a big chunk of monsters, fire monsters specifically, with a base power of 3465, 3509, 3575, and also for the fire element, the nemesis monsters are already released. The fact that the nemesis monsters are released, it pretty much drops the place of whatever monster I mentioned by like 3 places. So I'd just like to emphasize that although he is in 20th place, this is still a pretty good power. And even more so, a monster's base power, it really doesn't matter as much as a monster's skill. If a monster with a low power has a high damage skill like 70, 65, 60, then it can be even more powerful. So don't focus too much on the power. I'm letting you guys know that this is a pretty good power. And next up we have a life of 28,651, which puts this monster in 10th place, tied with monsters like Teleka, Raccoon, and Greedy Dragon. And if it wasn't for Lucifer, he'd be tied for 7th place. But still, 10th place, that's still pretty good, it's above average. And then lastly we have speed. He has a speed of 3,498, which is the fastest speed for any fire monster. Well, it's actually tied with the recently released Dartmouth's Bodyguard. So now Granuy and Dartmouth's Bodyguard, they are the fastest fire monsters. And when taking into account every single legendary monster that has been released, the speed set itself, 3,498, this is actually the 8th highest. So he's tied with monsters like Baba Yaga, Chrysandre, Samael the Plague Carrier, Zala the Faithful, so it's an incredible base speed. And more it looks like this is becoming the new norm. Lots of monsters are being released with this speed for whatever reason. And so it's unfortunate because previously 3,465, that was the base speed to have. It really appears like that's becoming the old generation, and 3498 is now the speed to strive for. And so in a nutshell, this monster has some pretty amazing stats. And what really complements those stats are his trait. He has Hardened. All status effects have a 20% less accuracy against it. And I'm pretty sure that by now most of you have heard me say this already, but I'm going to say it anyways to the new people watching. Hardened is like the best trait to have if you're a regular monster. Obviously if you're a general, you'll have Tough, which is a better version of Hardened. If you're a VIP monster or the Keeper or Sammy or maybe future nemesis monsters, you're going to have Bulwark, which is an even better version of Hardened and a better version of Tough. And obviously if you're an artifact monster or a totem that has spirits, those are really great traits. But for your average monster, having Hardened is the best thing, because we're playing in a game where you can go up against anything. You can go up against monsters that can freeze you, that can stun you, that can possess you, that can hack you, that can mega stun you. There's all these different sorts of things, you can get stop time. And so more and more, having the Hardened trait is really the best thing for you. In the past, if you were a fire monster, having the trait immune to stun was like the best thing, because all fire monsters really have our stun skills. But now that we have the nemesis monster Lucifer who can freeze you, now that Team Wars can really be a mix of just all these different elements, and everything is just so haywire, having Hardened is the best thing. So stats wise, trait wise, this monster is just incredible in my opinion. And hey, one more reason to like this monster, he does have a max GPM of 244, so that definitely beats those monsters that are being released with a GPM of 155. So hey, that's another thing to like about this monster. And so with that being said, let's move on to skills. And first of all, let me just say that this monster, there's really nothing I dislike about him. You're going to see his skills, you're going to see that you can pretty much run this monster however you want, as an attacker, as a supporter. Maybe I shouldn't have said however you want, because he's definitely not a denier, but he's definitely either a supporter or an attacker. And even his skills from skills group 1 are really nothing to laugh about, so this is one of those videos where I'm actually going to take the time to talk about everything. But for now, we're going to start off with the ultimate skill, Call Me Master Granuy. May burn all targets, may poison all targets, may freeze all targets, and it deals no damage. So burn, freeze, and poison. Poison and burn together, that's 25% of the enemy's HP for the next 3 turns, and on that 4th turn an extra 10%. You also get that freeze, which will take away 2%, and they're immobilized for 1 turn. and their damage output is reduced by 20% for the next 4 turns. So this is more of a supportive / deny ultimate skill, which is pretty good. It kind of sucks if you run this monster as an attacker because you don't get any benefits in terms of damage output, but hey, it's still 2 DLTs and they're immobilized for 1 turn, and so overall I actually do like this ultimate attack. Yes, I wish it could have dealt some sort of damage, even 30 would have been fine, but still overall for the effects it does, it's pretty good. Especially if you were to run this monster as a supportive monster, so you don't even care about damage output, then you just get the DLTs and the immobilizing, that's great. And now onwards to skills group 1, we have Gar. I'm sorry. Deals moderate fire damage to all enemies, 50% chance of burning all targets, 50% chance of poisoning all targets. And so we have a fire based AoE that deals 30 damage, costs 35 stamina, it has no cooldown, and it's a 50% chance to burn and apply poison. And so I actually like this AoE skill for 2 reasons. The first reason is obvious, it has no cooldown. So if you face a monster that activates cooldowns activated against your team, well hey, at least you still have a skill to use, and even though it's only a 50% chance to burn and a 50% chance to poison, hey, that's still better than just having to skip your turn entirely. And that was actually the second reason. I love that you still have a chance to apply DLTs on the enemy monsters. Again, it's not a guaranteed burning and poison, but it's still a chance to get poison and burning, especially with all these monsters being released that can activate the cooldowns on your team. And so specifically for a defensive build, it's great. And you know what, even for offense it can be pretty good I guess, because if you're facing an enemy Timeron and he does cooldowns activated, hey, you're still going to have a skill to use. But actually, you might not want to run this on an offensive build because you're going to see skills group 2 and 3. He has another really great skill, so I just wanted to quickly mention this. Next up is Tremble in Front of Me. Deals moderate special damage to an enemy, may give precision to all allies, removes all negative status effects from all allies, requires cooldown. And so what the heck, we have a skill that deals 40 special base damage to a single enemy monster, it costs 31 stamina with a 2 turn cooldown, and this skill gives all of your monsters increased accuracy as well as it can remove any negative effects. And so to me, I find it so strange that we have a skill this powerful in skills group 1. What I love about this is that because you have Harden, there will be times, 80% of the time specifically, when the enemy does an AoE deny skill on you and your other monsters get frozen or something, but thanks to your Harden trait you're able to avoid that. Well then you can do Tremble in Front of Me, assuming your Granuy is faster than your other monsters that got immobilized, and then you can get rid of that negative effect. And of course this also helps to get rid of any DLTs. And in the context of Team Wars, this monster would be used in a Fire War, and probably in the family book if he gets added there. So in a Fire War specifically, if your monsters get burned, or maybe they get ignitioned, well you're going to be able to remove those negative effects from your team, at the same time give them increased accuracy so their attacks don't miss. So skills group 1, even though it's in skills group 1, I really love this. And it's definitely a skill you may want to consider running. And then the last skill we have in skills group 1 is called Granulated, and if anything this is probably the skill I like the least and the one I wouldn't recommend at all. It removes daze from an ally, and the target doesn't take damage from all elements except special for 1 turn. And the only reason I'm mentioning this skill is because of the effect. Target doesn't take any damage from all elements except special attacks for 1 turn. So later on he actually has a team version of this, which is way better, so we'll talk about it when it comes. And so on to skills group 2 we go. Burning Your Flash deals very heavy special damage, may poison target, may burn target. Here we have a special based attack that deals 60 damage, it costs 34 stamina, it has no cooldown. No cooldown, 60 damage, applies poison and burning. What the heck is this skill? Cooldowns activated doesn't affect you. It's special base, so even against a fire monster, they're as good as dead, any element really, and it applies poison and burning, meaning that if you can't eliminate the monster with your 60 damage attack, the poison and burning will surely do the rest, because that's 25% of their life. You only need to damage a monster 75% of their life, and considering this monster isn't a deny monster, he's not going to be going first by any means, that means that there's that initial damage your deny monster does with an AoE skill, and then your burning flash, that's 60 damage, then the deal, this skill is great. In terms of attacker skills, this has to be one of the best in my opinion. Next up we have Purifying Your Soul, deals moderate fire damage to all enemies, all allies gain damage boost, removes all negative status effects from allies, requires cooldown. And so here we have a similar skill to the one in skills group 1. According to the description it's an AoE, according to the little stats over here it's a single enemy. Regardless of what it does, it deals 30 damage, costs 39 stamina, has a 2 turn cooldown, and as opposed to giving increased accuracy, it gives a damage boost. So you gotta pick, what do you like more? A fire based attack that may attack all of the enemy monsters, or a single based attack that deals 40 damage. Let me scroll up so you can see it. An attack that deals 40 damage and gives increased accuracy. Myself personally, I think I prefer the increased accuracy because I don't like missing, and if I can guarantee that one of my monsters lands a stun, or a freeze, or lands their attack, that's better than them giving a damage boost. And even though it's only a 5% or a 10% chance to miss, I just prefer the increased accuracy. So from Purifying Your Soul and Tremble in Front of Me, I really like the skills group 1 skill. But you ultimately have to decide what do you like more if you're considering running either of these 2 skills. Like I said early on in the video, there's a lot I like about this monster and not much I dislike. So the next skill we have is Nowhere to Run. And Nowhere to Run deals moderate water damage to all enemies, removes all positive status effects from all targets, requires cooldown. So we have a water based AoE that deals 45 damage, 37 stamina, 2 turn cooldown, and a water attack on a fire monster. That is great. If we ever have an all fire war and you run this monster as an attacker, those fire monsters are dead, because this attack will essentially be the equivalent to being like 67.5 damage, which I see really difficult for any fire monsters to survive. But anyhow, the other effect of this is that it removes any good effects. So say you're going up against a General Dartmouth. General Dartmouth, you know he likes to put up his Dragon Berserker. He ignores 50% of damage. Well, thankfully this is a water attack, so you kind of ignore his ignoring of the damage. And then you can just remove that. So you remove his double damage, you remove the Dragon Berserker. And so that's definitely nice. And against all sorts of elements, you know, earth monsters, they tend to put up shields. Effects like space-time, evasion is becoming a lot more popular. This is a really good way to get rid of the enemy's evasion. That way you can actually immobilize them or attack them. So this is definitely a skill worth running on this monster, on a supportive build and on an offensive build. And then next up we have skills group 3, Accept My Power. Deals moderate fire damage to all enemies, may burn all targets, may poison all targets. We have an AoE version of his previous skill. It's a fire based AoE, 45 damage, 41 stamina cost, 2 turn cooldown. The cooldowns are surprisingly low on this monster, not that it matters too much. But anyways, it burns and poisons. What a great way to start the game. A great skill for defense as well as for offense, and a skill I would definitely recommend whether you're making your monster as an attacker or as a supportive monster. Because as support monster, you're just going after those DLTs, that poison and burning. As an attacker, well, you're going after that damage output and the DLTs. And if you're also running nowhere to run, well, now you have two 45 AoEs that are different elements, so that'll definitely help you out. And then we have 2 more skills to discuss, but as you can see, Accept My Power, Nowhere to Run, Burning Your Flash, these are really phenomenal skills. And then you have Tremble in Front of Me and Purifying Your Soul. So what the heck, how are we going to decide on the skill set for this monster? It is definitely going to be tough, let me tell you. Next up is My Allies Will Rise. Gives double damage to all allies, gives precision to all allies, requires cooldown. We have a team skill that costs 28 stamina, has a 2 turn cooldown, and it gives all of your monsters double damage and increased accuracy. What the heck? I mean, it's not like this is new or anything. You know, Incognita can do that too. But I don't know, I just like it more because this monster he's so versatile. You can run him as an attacker, you can run him as a supportive monster. Heck, you can even run My Allies Will Rise on an offensive monster and just use 1 turn to set up for yourself, because then your AoE is essentially a 90, and then your water AoE is also a 90, and against a fire monster it's even more devastating. Burning Your Flash will be 120, so you could do that. I wouldn't recommend it, but it's just a possibility. It's just, I love this so much. This is another skill I want to run. On a supportive build, definitely run this. On an attacker, it's really up to you, with myself leaning more towards no. You can typically have one of your other monsters fill the support role, but hey, you know, in an all-fire war, you can run 2 of these guys. Buff yourself, give yourself increased accuracy, and then Nowhere to Run will not miss, and all the fire monsters are dead for sure. And because this monster has an insanely fast speed, you can even give this monster 3 speed runes, give your Deny monster 3 speed runes, and start the game off with double damage and precision. That way your Deny monster will not miss the Deny. Because you know the problem with running AoE Deny is that 90% accuracy. Well, you can completely eliminate it by having Granuy go first and then buffing your whole team. So that's one strategy you can utilize. And oh my gosh, it's just so hard to run or not to run. I guess that would be my only reason for running 3 speed on this monster, just to start the game off with My Allies Will Rise. It's a strategy I used to do with Incognita, but since Incognita doesn't have the highest base speed, in the end I just ended up making her a slower monster. So it's my Deny monster, then Incognita, then my attacker. But you know, sometimes I do miss with my Deny monster, especially when you're going up against monsters that have the Hardened trait, the Bulwark trait, the Tough trait. And so you know that's a 20, 35, or 50% chance to miss your Deny effect. Well, precision actually does help with that. It doesn't completely eliminate it, especially against Bulwark, but it does help. And then the last skill we have is Absolute Protection. Gives immunity to daze to all allies. All allies don't take any damage from all elements except special for 1 turn. Removes all negative status effects from all allies, requires cooldown. Here we have a team skill that costs 26 stamina, has a 3 turn cooldown, and your whole team gets daze immunity. You get to remove any negative effects your team may have, and you get special blocker. And the special blocker I talked about earlier, you take no damage except from special attacks. Which, against legendary monsters, almost every single legendary monster has a special attack. There's only a few exceptions that only have like a single element. Thetis' pet comes to mind, only water-based attacks. And I don't know if the opposite is true. I don't know if there exists a legendary monster that only has legendary attacks. You know, I'm pretty sure that no legendary monster has purely special-based attacks. I think I would remember if it did. But anyhow, contrary to the name, this is by no means an absolute protection. You're not protected against legendary monsters whatsoever, with the exception of very few legendary monsters. But with that said, this skill can definitely still be worth using. What I do really like about absolute protection is that this protects your monsters against the elements they're weak against. So for example, if you were facing a water monster, obviously you can use absolute protection. The water monster will probably target you with a water-based attack, and you're gonna survive because you won't take any damage. And even for your teammates, you know, let's say you have an Oros, the enemy has a Barbatos. Well, absolute protection, Barbatos can do Master of Pain. Heck, he can give himself double damage, then do Master of Pain against your Oros. guess what? You're going to take no damage. And so there's some definite pluses to running this skill, especially if you're going a supportive build. On an offensive build, I really wouldn't recommend it, but if you're going for the support route, it's a really good skill to have that can come in handy in multiple situations, and so it's ultimately up to you whether or not you want to run this skill. And now for the hard part of the video of deciding what skills to run. Now, as you can see, I liked 8 skills. The only one I didn't really like was Granulated. And so I like these 8 skills for different reasons. You know, for defense, I would consider running Gar, but then you can make the argument, is it even worth putting this monster on defense when there's better alternatives? Well, then I can make the counter argument by saying it really depends where you're at in the game. Like, if you got this monster during the breeding event, then yeah, definitely, he might be one of your best monsters, especially if you were able to rank him up. And so that really differs on a player-to-player basis. But I guess for the majority of people, maybe this monster wouldn't be the best for defense. So let's just stick with a purely offensive build and a supportive build. If you're going for offense, I would recommend burning your flash, accept my power, nowhere to run, and then I personally just really like Tremble in front of me from skills group 1. And by no means do you have to follow my build, that's just my preference, because really I think the only skill you should definitely have without question is burning your flash. After this skill, you're free to choose whatever you want. Like, you don't even need to run both of these AoEs. Instead, you can just run my allies will rise and do that self boost like I said, and on the next turn you just have a 90 damage AoE, except my power will be poison and burning, nowhere to run will be remove good effects, and 90 water based AoE, so you have different options really. You don't have to follow my recommended skill set, you can choose whatever works best for you. And for an attacker build, the runes would be 2 strength runes and a speed rune, or 2 strength runes and a team speed rune. And then the supported build I think is a little more easier for me anyway, except my power, because it does DOTs, absolute protection, because you never know when that shield blocker comes in handy, and that removal of debuffs. My allies will rise because this is like the support skill, double damage and increased accuracy, and then lastly nowhere to run, because you never know what kind of effects the enemies may have. If they have shields on, if they have buffs, if they have life regeneration, stamina regeneration, or maybe they have evasion, you can completely get rid of it. So yeah, support build a lot more easier, and for a support build I would say 1 speed rune and 2 team speed runes. You honestly don't need any strength on this monster. You want him fast enough to go before your attacker, so you can do my allies will rise, that way your attacker doesn't miss, or even if this monster gets a chance to attack, well, you're just going to apply the burning and the poison, and that's going to be his main form of dealing damage. And then lastly, you can also give this monster 3 speed runes just to utilize the fact that he gives your team precision, that way your deny monster will not miss the deny skill, it will not miss the deny AoE. In which case your attacker monster should probably have a team speed instead of an individual speed, just to make sure that your deny monster still gets the upper hand against the enemy deny monster, because this monster can't deny, he can only support. And with that being said, that is going to conclude my analysis on Granuy. Just once again keep in mind this is a premature analysis because this monster hasn't been released, and as the wiki themselves mention, no, data shown on the wiki is not official and may change, so by no means is everything I said accurate. But if everything does turn out to be accurate, then great, I don't need to make another video. Overall, I really like this monster and I look forward to hearing from all of you guys. What do you think about this monster? How do you guys think that Granuy compares to other 5 monsters? Do you think he's just as good as them? Do you think he's not as good as them? Do you think he's better than them? Please let me know in the comments below. And also let me know, if you happen to get this monster, how are you going to run him? Are you going to run him offensively, defensively, supportively? Let me know, because when a monster like this gets released, where they have so many different skills to choose from, where they have so many different builds you can do, it's just really hard for me, and I like hearing what you guys are going to do with your monster if you happen to get him. Heck, even if you know for a fact you can't get this monster, just imagine you were to get this monster. What would you do with him if you were to get him? And so with that being said, don't forget to comment below. Best of luck to all of you on your Monster Legends adventures, and like always, remember to dream big and pursue your passions.